Okay, shukran for joining. We'll start now right with the Gemara. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for Rabbi, Rabbi Moshe, Mike, Mr. Minsky, Levi. Levi, today's a very, very busy day by you. You have about half of the United States coming to Erie today. And Baruch. There's like a 115-mile sliver of land where you could get 100% eclipse, 100% blocking of the sun, and Erie's right there in the middle of it. So a lot of people
are going 10 miles from here, but 10 miles straight up.
So I remember many years ago there was a full eclipse here,
but it's nothing with the Chaim that we're not going to make a bracha on it.
Right, it's not a bracha because it's a lika. You don't make a blessing because it's a lack. If it's something new is coming added to the world, then you make a bracha. But a lack, and the Gemara says it's not a good sign for a lika.
Eclipse is not a good sign.
That's what it says. It's not a good sign. But if we just do ours, mitzvahs, Torah, staka, mitzvasim, everything will be good.
The bracha on the sun and the moon, the bracha.
So we're holding here in the Gemara. We're going to go a little bit today into the idea of shul politics. Who owns a shul? Daf Chavav Amud Aleph. It should be 26A1 or 26AB. We're in the. We were going previously. We went through what is allowed to be sold to buy something else. You could sell a city square in order to buy a shul. You could sell a shul in order to buy a Aron Kodesh, a Torah Ark, or a Bima. You could sell those in order to buy the coverings for the Sefer Torah. You could sell those in order to buy one book of Nevi'im or Kesuvim. You could sell those to buy a Sefer Torah. And you cannot sell something to buy something of lesser holiness. But a shul, especially nowadays, shuls are very valuable pieces of real estate. Many times with community demographics, shuls move, communities move. Who owns a shul? Is a shul owned by a board? Is a shul owned by the entire city, community? Is it owned by the collective Jewry in the world? If the Israeli government, could they decide to give away the Kollel Rabbi? Could they? Does it belong to them? No, it belongs to all Jews in the world. Right? They were not made representatives of all the Jews because no one could represent all the Jews. The last thing we explained was that there's a difference of a shul in a big city and a shul in a small town. In big cities get a lot of traffic. People come, people go, people are constantly there. You have a new face every single day. So a krach, a large city, the shul belongs to worldwide Jewry. Similar to, let's say, the Kollel Rabbi, perhaps a shul like 770, I would say. We'll get to actually that particular example in this Gemara. But a worldwide shul, let's say not a shul belonging to a kreis, a rebbe, a chassidus, but a shul which is heavy traffic belongs to everybody equally and it cannot ever be sold. A shul in a small village, usually you don't get too many passerbys there. The vast majority of people there all the time are only locals. And it's uncommon to have someone not part of the shul and everyone in the shul chips in together to build it. That shul belongs to them. As we'll see soon in the Gemara, you're going to have within a city itself what's called a krach and a kfar. A large shul and a small shul in a city. A little shtibel in a city would have the din of a small village where just the people of the shul are the owners of the shul. And a large shul, communal shul in a city belongs to everyone equally. So let's go through all the ins and outs in the Gemara. Amar Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi, Hi Beiknishta de Masa Mechasya. You have a shul in a city called Masa Mechasya. Masa Mechasya is mentioned very often in Gemara. It's the city where Rav, we mentioned before, Rav was in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael was a thriving center of Torah learning. Rav saw that Bavel did not have such Torah learning like Eretz Yisrael. He moved to Bavel. And after a while, he was in Erda. He sees that the city of Masa Mechasya, which is technically Surah, does not have much Torah learning going on, and he went and moved there and made a tremendous yeshiva there. So Hai Beknishta, the Masa Mechasya. Here on the I got Masa Mechasya, it's in Surah today. If you could zoom in a little bit to this map that I put up on the screen. Surah is right over here. This is Masa Mechasya. It's technically a suburb of Surah. Yeah. And Iraq, I'm not even sure if it's Iraq or Iran. Somewhere over here. It's Iraq?
Right.
Okay. And Mechusa is over there. We're going near Da. That's where Rav was in the beginning. We're going to go through a few of these cities today, different shuls. Masa Mechasya had a famous shul that they had the winter shul and the summer shul. There was no AC then, no central ventilation. So they had a winter shul where the walls were very thick and there weren't any windows. And they had a summer shul where the walls didn't even go up to the roof. And there was very thin walls and ventilation and windows. And some say that it wasn't two different shuls, it was actually one shul which they redid every single year. So Masa Mechasya, that's where Rav. Now, later generations, Rav Ashi, he was the one who was the author of the Gemara, him, Ravina and Rav Ashi, the main authors. He said, so Masa Mechasya, being as was a suburb, many places are sort of like, I'd say, Monroeville is a suburb of Pittsburgh. You have Slobodka was a suburb of, I don't remember the city right now, I think Kovna. So the Masa Mechasya, now the city of Masa Mechasya is a small town. It was a regular smaller village, maybe a little bit of a larger village next to a larger city, sort of. But once Rav Ashi came to the city, suddenly people started coming to the city, right? Everyone started coming to the city to go to Rav Ashi twice a year to learn before Pesach, before Sukkot. People came to daven with Rav Ashi. He's a Rebbe of the time. People would give money to the shul of Rav Ashi, but all in the merit, because of Rav Ashi. Kivan. So it's a very busy shul. But although everybody who's coming to the shul is coming from all over the world, from all over Bavel, so you would think that this shul should have the din of a krach, of a shul in a large city, which belongs to worldwide Jewry, which can never be sold. But he says it then, Kiven since people are only coming into the shul because of me, because of Rav Ashi, so I'm the one who built the shul up. I'm the one who is behind this whole shul, and if Rav Ashi would leave Masa Mechasya, so then nobody will keep on coming to Masa Mechasya. Similar, you could say, let's say, the city town of Lubavitch, which now that Lubavitch Rebbe has left, there's almost no people there. Right? So since they come because of me, I therefore have complete ownership of the shul and everything done according to what I want. And if I desire, I can sell the shul. So Masa Mechasya Pnei Yeshua points out was not a large city where people came at any rate. It was bigger than a small village. But Rav Ashi being an individual, but since the individual was the one behind the entire shul, he built the shul. Therefore, it's considered to be a shul of an individual. Even though many people donated to the shul, but they only donated because of Rav Ashi. Therefore, the shul belongs to Rav Ashi himself. And if Rav Ashi decides to sell it, he could sell it. It has to maybe go through the board, says Aran, the Shiva Tuva Eir. But if he decides to sell it, he's allowed to sell it. It does not have the status of a shul which belongs to the community. There was one time in the early 1980s where the Rebbe spoke very passionately, and it was on a Shabbos. There's no recording of it. Maybe Rabbi Karp remembers this. And they say that there was never a sikha as passionate as this sikha from people which were there throughout the entire Rebbe's Nesius, where the Rebbe spoke about different things that are happening in Crown Heights, and all because of one thing. The Rebbe says the women's mikveh in Crown Heights is not being kept up. It's not being renovated. The woman who fell and broke her leg there, the Rebbe says, I use a woman's mikveh, you would, and I see this the situation it's in. I asked many times in public to fix it. and nobody took it upon themselves. And the Rebbe said there's certain things that happened over here in the city. In the summer, it was raining when it wasn't supposed to. It's a sign from Hashem about the rain. And he says, the Rebbe said, you're allowed to sell a shul in order to build a mikveh. So the Rebbe says, I went ahead and I sold 770. The building 770, the main headquarters of Chabad, the Rebbe says, I sold the building of 770. And with that money, the Rebbe says, that money was given to renovate the woman's mikveh. Baruch Hashem, they went through a new renovation recently. It's a very nice mikveh now. What? So, now, if the shul, especially like 770, with people coming from all over the world, every single day, you would think it's communal shul. So, I mean, the building of 770 itself is where the Frierdiker Rebbe's apartment was. The Rebbe's room is, but so that perhaps could be sold. But what about the shul on the first floor of 770? And we're not talking about the basement, the actual building of 770 itself. So the same thing would apply over here. What Rabbi Ashi says, that since everyone over here is coming only because of Rabbi Ashi, here everyone is coming only because of the Rebbe. So the Rebbe has a permission to sell the building. The Rebbe is able to sell the building in order to build a mikveh, and that's what happened. We don't know who bought it. I mean, it was said that it was somebody who was not a chassid, not a Lubavitcher, which obviously, I mean, understood who a little bit of the Rebbe was, and whatever the Rebbe would tell him to go. And and he was called up by the Maskiros, by somebody, to saying that the Rebbe wants you to buy the building of 770 symbolically for this amount. And he said yes right away. Never got involved in anything of the building, no connection to anything. More of a symbolic sale, but it's an idea. The Rebbe said that now it's a building that doesn't belong to us in order to fix it for everybody else. Now, even in Masam Mechasya, I'm sure there were bigger shuls and smaller shuls. But the fact that Masam Mechasya was only built up as a large metropolis only because of Reb Ashi, so therefore he's able to sell it on his own accord. Rabbi Yosef writes over here on this particular story of Reb Ashi. We learn another thing from the story, that if everyone if you have, let's say, people in the town elected a board, and people in that board elected one person to be their representative, that person has a power to represent the entire city. And you don't have to go around asking every individual later on if they agree to a decision made by this one particular individual. Once we're on this subject, a shul that was built by an individual. Could a shul be built by somebody and be owned, that building, that property owned by the person who built it? If Rabbi Karp could attest to this when you had this in Maple Shul, right? Somebody coming and saying, I'll offer to buy the building off you.
No,
And they'll pay for everything, let you be in shul, and they'll just buy the building, right?
not by them. So that a bank account.
Bank account.
But it shouldn't buy it because, see, that shul was an official legal corporation under the charities law of New York State.
Right.
And there was
So it's
specific
yeah.
as to who, you had to be a member, you had to be an officer, you had to be a board member in order to have any say in the thing. Yeah.
So in Russia, this is very common, where the Yevseksia, the Jewish section of the Communist Party, would come to the people in charge of the shul and say, we suggest to you that you give this shul as a present to the greater cause, to the greater good. If a shul was given as a present, not a big shul, a little small shul in a small town, which belongs to individuals, it shouldn't be done. But if it was done, it's a binding type of thing. But definitely, there's conditions. One of them is you have to give another shul, a better shul, to be replaced instead of it. And let's continue with the Gemara. Meisevei Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani said the statement that a shul in a small town could be sold, a shul in a big city can never be sold. Ask him a question. Hi, Beknishta. Maise, there was a story that there was a shul that was of the copper smelters who were in Yerushalayim. So interestingly, I mean, this is what a copper smelting looks like today, but this is like a ancient copper smelting from, interestingly, they found it, I think, in the suburbs of Yerushalayim. The people who worked in copper smelting, melting copper, they didn't have all this protective gear they have today. And they were very smelly, and nobody liked the way they smelled. So everybody would stay far away from them, and they would have their own shul. Later on, it became in all the small towns all over Europe that you had a shul for every type of the water carrier shul, you had the grave digger shul, you had every type of person had their own shul. So this was a small shul because the only people who worked in the shul were the copper smelters. He sold it to Rabbi Eliezer. And later on in the next Mishnah, we're going to discuss what to do with the shul after it's sold. And Rabbi Eliezer bought the shul, and he used it for all of his own needs. Meaning not just a shul of, not just for another shul, but for other things too. Maybe he lived there, maybe he gave a shiur there, could be he cooked his supper there. So Rabbi Eliezer bought the shul. Yerushalayim is considered to be a large city. And how could Rabbi Eliezer buy a shul and use it for his own needs in Yerushalayim? More answers. That was a little small shul, a little small shtibel. Even in the big city, the only shul that would belong to the larger community would be a very large shul, or many thousands of people, hundreds of people, very large, busy shul. We have many guests coming. But here, this shul of the copper smelters was a very small shul. And they built it themselves for themselves. So therefore, it's considered to be almost like a private acquisition. You wouldn't have guests coming davening in that shul because it smelled so bad in that shul. So therefore, they are allowed to sell that shul. You know, for example, I can think of this today, because I was in the summer where Rabbi Darren spends a lot of time in Postville. Hey, Yossi, shalom aleichem. So in Postville, yeah, thank you for joining. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
So in Postville, there's a minyan which the shachtim, the ones who shechting, they have right before they go do the shchita. It's in the locker room. They have a little tiny aron kodesh behind a little curtain, and they have it literally in the locker room where they change into their clothes for the shchita. That's where they have a minyan there in the morning. A very early, very quick minyan they have there in the morning, like 6 a.m. or 6:15, the earliest possible. And that's a type of minyan where you don't usually have guests coming to the minyan, besides for the hour, and it's in the plant. But it's also a very smelly environment. Right? Everyone has getting into the shechita clothes. You're right in the middle of a whole entire plant, etc. So that could be an example. So such a place, if it was sold, it's an individual acquisition and could be sold. Ask Gemara another question on the words of Rabbi Yona's son, who said that you're not allowed to sell a shul in a big city. Beveis Eretz achuzaschem. So this is one of the interesting halachas called nig'ei batim, tzaras on a house. I'm sure there's better drawings out there, but this is what I came up with looking around. And this is from the Walder Foundation. And Rabbi Walder, who was just passed away, tremendous gvir, who gave tremendous amount of tzedakah. So this is from the Walder Foundation, this picture, for chinuch. If there is a house in Eretz Yisrael, and here's another decent picture of it, a drawing, a house in Israel, which has saras, has spots on it, either a green spot or a red spot, and it's not a natural type of spot. So it could be a punishment called tzaras, a penalty from heaven for either speaking lashon hara, or that's the most common one, or several other things that were done against the Torah. The system would be that first, if a person sinned, first the tzaras would affect their house around them. Later on, it would affect their clothes. Later on, it would affect their body. Tzaras only took place during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. I think even there specifically, only the first Beis HaMikdash, because then people were on a much higher spiritual level. So if they said lashon hara, the tzaras would affect them. Tzaras was outside their body. Nowadays, lashon hara and all these other traits are part of us. So the tzaras is inside our body. We have a much bigger task of expelling it. So if tzaras, a spot, was found on the house, on the inside of the house, so the kohen has to come and check it out. First, they remove everything from the house, as you see over here, because if it is tzaras, everything in the house becomes tamei, impure. Everything is removed from the house. He checks it. If it is tahar, if it's not, doesn't have the criteria to be tzaras, everything is fine. You can move back in. Otherwise, the tzaras area is moved. The house is locked up, and the tzaras, and then you wait a week. If the spot got any larger, then it's definitely tzaras. If the spots stayed the same, then you remove the places of the stones, like you see over here, put in new stones, and wait another week. And if the tzaras did not come back, then the house is pure. And if it came back, the house is impure, and then the whole house has to be knocked down. It's called tzaras habatim. It only took place in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel. Many times it was actually a blessing from Hashem when the tzaras came, because the nations who were in Eretz Yisrael and Israel before, the Jewish people, many of them hid their treasures behind the walls of their houses, and expecting that after they'll run away temporarily, when they come back, they'll get their treasures. And Hashem wanted to reveal the treasures of the Jewish people. So he would make tzaras on those areas, they would remove the stones, and then they would find all the treasures. So many times it was a chesed, a kindness from Hashem when it took place. Here you have, unfortunately, this family, I guess the whole house had to be knocked down because of the tzaras. And there's many halachas of tzaras, if it's a sheared wall, etc. This applies only in the Holy Land, only in Eretz Yisrael. Outside of Eretz Yisrael, you don't have tzaras. Mesevei, we asked a question from a brisa, which states, "Beveis Eretz achuzaschem." Here it is. Hashem says, and this is in this week's parsha, correct? Parsha's Tazria, right? Kisavoyu el Eretz Canaan, when you come to the land of Canaan, which I will give to you, lachuza, as an inheritance. V'nesati nega tzaras, I will put a plague of tzaras, so spots. Beveis Eretz achuzaschem, in the land of your possessions. And then the Torah tells you what you have to do. What do you learn from the fact that it says the land of your possession? Beis Eretz achuzaschem. Achuzaschem means we're a part of the land of Israel that belongs to everyone. Meaning Shevet Reuven or Shevet Shimon has their part of Israel. Shevet Yehuda has their part. However, there's one part of Israel, one city, which doesn't belong to any one Shevet, one tribe, but rather it belongs to everyone collectively. Which city is that?
Yerushalayim.
Yerushalayim. So the fact that it says Echuzaschem, the land of your possessions, we learn from there that in the land of Israel, which is divided according to the Shvatim, each tribe has their own part of the land. Over there, become impure through tzaras.
But apparently only in Yerushalayim.
And Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, cannot become tamei with tzaras, with leprosy. So even if you find a spot in Yerushalayim with tzaras, it does not become tamei.
Wait, so that's actually, when it says actually them, means actually it's belonging to somebody, the here belongs to everybody, so death and
Correct.
I was getting confused, but I was thinking it means actually, tzaras only in Yerushalayim.
Right.
And in return, them meaning everybody was thinking.
No, the halacha is in Yerushalayim, a house cannot become tummy for tzaras, and there's many special halachas which deal only with Yerushalayim. Right, but one of them is a house cannot become tzaras, it can never become an ir nidachas, even if everyone in the city was serving idols, it cannot be destroyed as ir nidachas. Is halachas, you're not allowed to rent out a house in Yerushalayim to someone else. If the guests come for Tishrei, you're not allowed to charge them rent because it belongs to everybody equally.
And the halacha is still today?
We don't have this today. Again, we don't own Eretz Yisrael under Bezdin, under Sanhedrin. When we will, Mitzvah Hashem, these halachas will come back into play again. Right now, we don't have Sanhedrin. We don't have Tzaras. We don't have many of these halachas. Mitzvah Hashem, Mashiach comes, we'll figure out many things, including this halacha. But you're not allowed to rent out a house that you own in Yerushalayim because, again, Yerushalayim does not belong to anyone individually. It belongs to all the Shvatim equally. It came time of the second base of Mikdash. We didn't have 10 tribes in Eretz Yisrael. We only had a minute amount from them. And it's sort of real estate changed to sort of what we have now. Where people own their property, their land, where the king took it. It didn't necessarily go according to your shevet, according to your tribe. So since Yerushalayim does not belong to individuals, and there's a famous song, Yerushalayim is not for sale. Great. Why is it not for sale? Because it belongs to everybody equally. Tosfos over here writes on the page as well. It will come during the high season, it was so busy, there were beds all over. You weren't allowed to rent the place of the beds, but the bed itself belongs to me, belongs to someone. You can rent out the bed itself, but not the place of the bed. And let's say you lived in Yerushalayim. Now people are coming. They say, oh, here, you live in Yerushalayim. Here, open up your house and let in 50 strangers into your house. Would you want that? No. So the Chachamim eventually let people charge rent. And they wouldn't charge it for the place, they would charge it for the beds. Only in order that people should be willing to host people. Now, Yerushalayim was not conquered by the Jewish nation during the wars of conquest during the times of Yeshua. The Yevusim, which were one of the nations there, still lived in Yerushalayim. They never left Yerushalayim. David HaMelech's general Yoav, he was the one, he climbed up a water duct, and he was the one who conquered Yerushalayim. So Yerushalayim itself, when it was conquered to be a city for the whole entire nation. It was never conquered, never became a city for one individual shevet. Like the rest of Eretz Yisrael was conquered, is going to be conquered, but Yeshua will divide who it belongs to. Yerushalayim was to begin with conquered by David HaMelech in order to divide it, in order to be belonging to all the Jewish people. In the beginning, perhaps, David HaMelech had this in mind as well, that we're going to see soon about the Mizbeach. Part of it belonged to Binyamin, part of it belonged to Yehuda, but the Gemara will discuss that soon. But the entire Yerushalayim was, to begin with, only given to everybody equally. What's the halachas going to be when Mashiach comes? Is going to reconquer Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim. You could say we own Yerushalayim now. So first of all, I don't know how much we own Yerushalayim if we don't let ourselves rule Yerushalayim. And second of all, as it says later on, it says in Zechariah, Mashiach is going to have to reconquer Yerushalayim. And what will be then? We don't know. So Yerushalayim cannot become tamei for tzaras because it is not Eretz achuzaschem, the land of your possessions. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, Ani le shemati ela mekom mikdash bilvat. This distinction that Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, cannot become tamei, impure with tzaras, is specifically about the place of the Holy Temple itself, but nowhere else. But everywhere else in Yerushalayim, says Rabbi Yehuda, could become tamei with tzaras. And what's special about Yerushalayim? So if you look back over here, where is Vayikra? It says when you're going to purify the place where the here previous chapter 3 verse 35. When you're coming to purify the house and it goes through the process, it says the owner of the house comes to the Kohen and tells him, it seems to me some sort of plague, a tzaras, in the house. The person who owns a house, who owns a Beis HaMikdash? Nobody. The entire Jewish people. But a house which is owned by a person, where a person lives there, sleeps there, so that's a house which is owned by a person, that could become tummy with tzaras. But Yerushalayim, but the Beis HaMikdash itself cannot become tummy with tzaras. It says when David HaMelech, although he conquered Yerushalayim, the area of the Beis HaMikdash itself, he collected money from all 12 tribes, all 12 shvatim, and he bought it from a Ravna HaYebusi. Ravna is a person who owned the threshing floor, but David HaMelech used money from all 12 shvatim, all 12 tribes, to buy that land. So he says, Rabbi Yehuda says that Yerushalayim itself would have a din, would have a law of being conquered by David HaMelech. It will belong to Shevet Yehuda, and it could become Tameh with Tzaras, because it belongs to an individual. People live there. But the Beis HaMikdash, which was money for the entire Beis HaMikdash, was collected from every single person equally. So that cannot become Tameh with Tzaras. So Rabbi Yehuda minimizes it. Halakha is like the Chaim, like the sages. So the Gemara asks, based on this, on Rabbi Yehuda, which says that the place of the Beis HaMikdash cannot become Tameh, cannot become impure with Tzaras. But that means everywhere else in Yerushalayim, every other shul could become Tameh with Tzaras. When it comes out that a shul and a Beis Medrash, we're learning now in the Beis Medrash, a place of learning, could become Tameh with Tzaras. Seemingly, it would be belonging to a large city, and if it's a large city, according to Rabbi Yonasan, you could never sell a shul in a large city because it belongs to the public. So the word a place that you own, should come to include only a shul, which is an individually owned shul, but a publicly owned shul, like in a large city, should not become Tameh with Tzaras because it's publicly owned. And the word means a place where you particularly live, you particularly stay over there. From Rabbi Yehuda, it sounds like that a small shul in Yerushalayim could become Tameh. And there's a Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, Mikdash Bilvad. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't say that a shul can become Tameh. He says that a shul maybe could become Tameh, but the only thing I heard about is particularly this particular shul, particularly about the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, it is possible, let's say, that a shul could become Tameh with Tzaras, but maybe not, because it belongs to everybody. I never heard one way or the other about Rabbi Yonasan. He says, I only heard a tradition, particularly about the Beis HaMikdash. And it's not just the Beis HaMikdash. He says, halach would be about a shul, because it says in Yecheskel, it says, I have sent the Jews around all the nations of the world, and I spread them all over, and I will be for them, for a mikdash ma'at, a mini Beis HaMikdash, in the places where they have come. Just bring this up on the screen. And this is, of course, a famous Beis Rabbeinu Shabbat. The Rebbe explains the holiness and the specialty of the shul in 770, and it comes all from this pasuk, from this verse. Therefore says Hashem, I've removed them from among the nations. I've scattered them among the countries. I will make a small base of mikdash in the place where they come. And the Rebbe explains that a base of mikdash goes according to the place where the nasi is, the leader of the generation. As we see, we're going to see soon, we're going to, there's other Gemaras as well, Kiddushin, that the shul where Rav Ashi was a main shul. It says a shul called Shafi Yasser, where the base of mikdash travel there. And therefore, these shuls have a very high level of kedusha, a very high level of holiness. And these shuls, says, taka cannot be sold. We'll conclude today. We're in the month of, or the last day of Adar. This is day number 60 of Adar. Adar is, we started from Rosh Chodesh Adar, and 59 days of Adar.
Yeah.
So altogether 60 days of Adar, and for Mishunichnas Adar Marbi Misimcha. When Adar comes in, you increase in joy. The more you go in Adar, the more you increase. If you're the same as yesterday, then you can't tell that you're Besimcha. Today's Simcha has to be over the top. And as Rabbi says, anything not good should be batal b'shishim, should be nullified in 60, including everything happening all over the world in Eretz Yisrael, for the entire Jewish nation. And interestingly, which is today, there's a place where there's very large Jewish populations, right? All over. These eclipses happen, I don't know, once a year, once every 4 years. I'm not sure how often. But many times they happen in totally non-inhabited places. But now it's happening in a place where there's, Baruch Hashem, a very large Jewish population. And there's definitely things that we can learn out of it. Definitely things to see. Although it says in Gemara that it's a not good sign. That's why you don't make a bracha. It says a solar eclipse is a not good sign for the nations of the world. And I remember I think after the last solar eclipse, it was like a tsunami killed hundreds of thousands of people. I remember someone connecting that and another solar eclipse previously. So when the sun is covered, it's a not good sign for the nations of the world. True, but you can explain that in other ways as well. It means perhaps a sunspot. These are things which could be predicted in advance. Now, just because something's predicted in advance doesn't mean something not good will happen. It means it can have a predisposition to it. It says all of our Rebbes, all of our Rebbeim were, it says in the back of Tehillim, were very nervous when it came to a Ibriyar, a leap year, a year with two others. The year Tiferes Ches, 1868, is a famous story in the back of Tehillim about there was a decree that was going on and was only abolished because of tremendous saying of Tehillim. But that was in the year Tiferes Ches and Ibriyar, a leap year. We know what happened in Tafshin Beis, 1992, when there were two others. And it's interesting, during that entire beginning of Adar, even before Adar, the Rebbe spoke repeatedly in different sichas how the longing for Pesach is so strong and longing for Gula is so strong. We want to skip Adar and go straight to Nisan, go straight to the Gula. And the Rebbe said those words, meaning what happened on the 27th of Adar Aleph in that year was something that obviously the Rebbe was alluding to quite clearly, that we have a longing to go straight to Nisan and skip. But still, we could do tzedakahs, we could do different things. But Lag BaOmer in the year 1990, there was right after a large earthquake in a place called Bangladesh, where there was unfortunately a huge death toll over there.
Bangladesh, right?
Bangladesh. My father actually was in Pittsburgh that year. He brought a whole group in for the Lag BaOmer parade. And in many Pittsburgh high school boys, Sifta high school boys, which were new, weren't so familiar with the Rebbe. They know the Rebbe does miracles. They hear about it all the time. And they did not know anything about the subway system in New York, which was coming from Pittsburgh. And, they're standing on Eastern Parkway and they're listening to the Rebbe Sikha, and the Rebbe mentioned earthquake. And suddenly the earth started shaking right under them because the subway train is going by underneath. And whenever it goes by right under the ground, it shakes. And these boys were, oh, what's happening over here? Is the Rebbe speaking about an earthquake and an earthquake happens? But the lesson that Rebbe learned from the idea of when something natural happens in the world, we also had an earthquake this past week, Baruch Hashem, a very minor one, but also in a very large Jewish population in New York. the Rebbe says that anything that happens in the world, is there because Hashem wants it and makes it happen. And some things are able to predict in advance, many things not. And Hashem wants everyone to remind themselves and to know that yesh balabayis lebirazu. There's someone in charge, someone running the world, taking care of every single thing in the world. And if something happens, it's not God forbid because Hashem wants to punish the world or bring harm, chas v'shalom. It's rather to people should come to realize what they have to fix and to realize that there's a balabayis, that there's somebody Hashem control of the world. Yeah, so Baruch Hashem, so you have eclipse happening today. Some say it happens after Misa Tzadikim, after Tzadikim passes away. Some say it's talking about sunspots, not even talking about necessarily likui chama. It's a darkening of the sun. The sun itself is not darkened; it's just covered over.
Mm-hmm.
But all these things are only meant that we should take heed to it and learn and to learn, take lessons from it. Right, we're going to do several short halachas. When a person is happy on Yom Tov, shouldn't overindulge and drink wine and become laughter and lightheadedness. It's not a joy. That is considered to be foolishness. Hashem did not command us go party and like it's New Year's in Russia. Ever been New Year's in Russia? It's a 2-week party. Simcha, when a person's happy, you want to do everything good. And that's the idea of simcha. You have to serve Hashem with joy. Can't serve Hashem from drunkenness, frivolity, lightheadedness. The way of a tzaddik is when they become joy. The a tzaddik, a pious person, the more simcha they come, the more they praise Hashem. And a person tells himself, if the worldly joy, which is vanity, is so besimcha, because at the end of the life, everyone at the end ends up passing away, and most people before they pass away go through some pain. And therefore, at the end of life, is where things are pain, and still I can experience so much joy. The world to come will never be followed by grief. So for sure it's there b'simcha. And to thank Hashem, to daven to Hashem, that Hashem should keep on giving us good and enlighten us, so we should always be b'simcha, that we could serve Hashem better. It says you should be careful of watch your household members. They shouldn't go to places where they can go to kalas reish, levity, especially to mix among people, among crowds who are lightheaded. Places where they congregate, which are not conducive to serving Hashem better. It says it's a holy day. We say Atachin and Tanu during davening, and the day after Yom Tov we don't say Tachnun. Now Nisan we don't say Tachnun for the entire month, and after Shavuos we don't say Tachnun for the entire week. So because they would be bringing Karbanis for Yom Tov that entire week as well. Right, tomorrow Mr. Hashem will learn halachas of Cholamoid, and we want to also Mr. Hashem this week get to some more halachas of Erev Pesach, the Seder. And these are halachas that I think most of us are familiar with. It's a review, and from time to time, we'll bring in additions from the Alter Rebbe or the Rabbi. Okay, with that, I want to thank everybody for